Have you ever caught yourself wondering what really holds your life together as you get older? Not the surface stuff, like routines or calendars, but the deeper things. The kind of things that make you feel secure, calm, and genuinely happy, regardless of what life throws your way. Maybe you've spent your whole life caring for others, working hard, and being there for your family. But now, at this stage, you're finally asking, who's really there for me? And more importantly, how can I be there for myself? The truth is, life after 60 brings a whole new chapter, one filled with both freedom and uncertainty. And while it can be one of the most rewarding phases of life, it can also feel fragile without the right foundation. That's what today's video is all about. 5 powerful pillars that can help you build a life that's not just stable, but deeply satisfying. These aren't complicated ideas. They're simple, practical things you can start doing right now to feel more grounded, more independent, and more at peace in your everyday life. Let's start by talking about something that's not always easy to discuss, but absolutely essential: financial independence. Now I know, money isn't everything. But let's be honest, not having enough of it can weigh on you. It's not just about paying the bills. It's about having choices. It's about freedom. When you don't have to rely on your children, your relatives, or anyone else to meet your basic needs, there's a quiet confidence that settles in. You stop apologizing for needing things. You stop worrying about being a burden, and instead, you start living on your own terms. Take Mr. James, for example. He's a retired teacher in his mid-60s who lives just outside Portland. All through his career, he made a point to save. Nothing extravagant, but consistent. A little here, a little there. He didn't touch that money. When his kids moved away for work, he didn't panic. He didn't guilt them into sending money. He was ready. Today he lives comfortably, takes short trips to the coast, buys little gifts for his grandkids when they visit, and never once feels like he has to ask anyone for permission. That's the power of financial independence. It's not about being rich. It's about having enough. Enough to breathe easy, to stay in control, and to live with dignity. And it's never too late to build toward that. Even if you're retired, you can start by tracking where your money's going. Are there streaming services you never use? Is there a way to cut your grocery bill by planning meals a little more strategically? You might also explore ways to bring in a small income, something that fits your interests and lifestyle. Maybe it's renting out a room on weekends. Maybe it's selling handmade crafts online. Or maybe it's tutoring a few kids in your neighborhood. A few extra dollars a month might not seem like much, but over time, it can create a cushion. And more than that, it gives you a sense of control. Speaking of control, let's shift to something even more personal: your physical health. If you want to stay independent, you've got to stay active. I'm not saying you need to run marathons or do backflips, but being able to get out of bed, walk around your home, do your own laundry, cook your meals, those things matter more than ever now. Because the truth is, the moment your body starts slowing down, it's not just your freedom that gets impacted, it's your confidence. You start second-guessing. Can I carry these groceries? Can I climb those stairs? Can I make it through the day without needing help? That kind of doubt chips away at your joy. But you can push back, and it doesn't take much. Take Mrs. Linda. She's 70, lives in a quiet neighborhood in Arizona, and starts every morning the same way. A brisk walk around the block. A few yoga stretches on her back patio. Then a breakfast she actually looks forward to. Oatmeal with fresh berries, a little cinnamon, and a cup of herbal tea. That simple routine has kept her energized, strong, and independent. She does her own shopping, volunteers twice a week, and recently led a community garden project, all because she feels good in her body. What works for you might be different. Maybe it's a swim at your local rec center. Maybe it's dancing in your living room with the music turned up loud. Or maybe it's just setting a timer to stand up and stretch every hour. The key is consistency. A little movement every day helps your joints, your heart, your sleep, even your mood. And don't forget nutrition. You don't need fancy supplements or strict diets. Just whole, real food. More veggies, lean protein, less sugar, and water. Lots of water. Your body might be older, but it still knows how to heal. You just have to give it the right tools. Now you might be thinking, sure, health and money matter. But what about what's going on inside? Because let's face it, this phase of life can feel unsteady. The kids are gone. The job is over. Friends move away. The house is quieter than it used to be. And that can stir up a lot of emotions. It's perfectly normal to feel lonely sometimes, or lost, or even scared of what's coming next. But here's where the third pillar becomes vital: emotional resilience. This isn't about pretending everything's okay when it's not. It's about having the tools to ride the waves, even when the waters get rough. Life will always have transitions, but your inner strength can carry you through. Mr. David is a great example. He was a professional artist for most of his life, and when his children moved to another country, he was devastated. The silence in his house felt heavy, but instead of letting the sadness consume him, he turned inward. He started meditating just 10 minutes a day. He picked up his paintbrush again, not for money, but for peace. Before long, he was hosting small art shows at the community center and even mentoring young painters. What turned things around wasn't luck, it was choice. He chose to lean into what gave him joy. He chose to explore the stillness rather than run from it. That's emotional resilience. And it's something anyone can build. You don't need to be a monk or an artist. You just need to make space for what steadies you. Maybe that's prayer. Maybe it's journaling or gardening or singing in a choir. Maybe it's calling an old friend just to say hi. You can also practice something as simple as gratitude. Every night before bed, jot down 3 things that went right that day. A good cup of coffee. A nice breeze. A friendly smile from a stranger. It sounds small, but over time, it rewires your brain to see the good, even when life feels hard. You are stronger than you think. And every time you choose to show up for yourself, whether with a walk, a journal entry, or a home-cooked meal, you're building a life that's not only stable, but deeply meaningful. Let's keep going. Earlier, we talked about how your finances, your body, and your inner strength can shape the quality of your life after 60. But there's something else, something just as powerful, that often gets overlooked as we grow older. And that's your relationships. Not just with your family, but with the people you choose to have around you. Friends, neighbors, community. You see, after 60, it's easy to assume that the social part of life starts to wind down. Maybe your children have moved out, or your circle of friends has gotten smaller. Some people even start to believe that loneliness is just part of aging, like it's some unavoidable price you pay for growing older. But it's not. It doesn't have to be. In fact, this is the time to rebuild that circle, not out of obligation, but out of joy, out of curiosity, out of the desire to connect with people who make you feel alive. Take Mrs. Susan. She's a retired nurse in her late 60s who found herself feeling a bit adrift when her kids moved to different states. The house felt quiet. Days felt long. But instead of sitting in that silence, she decided to do something she hadn't done in years: join a book club. At first, she didn't know anyone. She just showed up, sat quietly, listened. But over time, something beautiful happened. She started forming bonds, not just over the books, but over stories, memories, and laughter. The group turned into coffee meetups, then weekend outings, and eventually, a group of women she now calls her chosen family. They celebrate birthdays together. They check in when someone's sick. They've even taken short road trips just for fun. What Susan found wasn't just a hobby, it was a support system. A reminder that connection doesn't end at 60. In many ways, it begins again. You don't have to join a book club, of course. Maybe for you, it's a gardening group, a walking club, a faith community, or even just 1 or 2 people you can talk to over a cup of tea. What matters is that they bring light into your life, that they make you feel seen, heard, and appreciated for who you are today. And here's the thing. These friendships often feel even deeper than the ones we had earlier in life. Why? Because they're not built on convenience or circumstance. They're built on intention. When you choose to show up for someone in this chapter of life, it's not because you have to. It's because you want to. And that makes all the difference. So if your phone's been quiet lately, or your days feel a little too still, reach out. Call that old neighbor. Say yes to that invitation. Smile at the woman you see every week at the farmer's market. Sometimes all it takes is one warm exchange to plant the seed of something lasting. But even with all that, financial stability, good health, emotional strength, and meaningful connections, there's still one more thing that brings it all together. And that's purpose. You might be thinking, well, I already had my purpose. I raised my family. I worked for decades. I gave what I had. And that's true. But here's the secret. Purpose doesn't run out. It changes shape. After 60, your purpose doesn't have to be big or flashy. It doesn't have to be about making money or chasing goals. It's simply about waking up with a reason to get out of bed. Something to look forward to. Something that fills you, not drains you. Let me tell you about Mr. Robert. He worked in engineering for over 35 years. When he retired, he thought he'd finally enjoy some peace and quiet. And at first he did. He played golf, did crossword puzzles, caught up on sleep. But after a few months, the days started to blur together. He felt restless, like something was missing. One day, while cleaning out his garage, he found an old woodworking bench. It had been sitting there for years untouched. On a whim, he pulled it out, dusted it off, and started tinkering. First, it was small stuff, birdhouses, picture frames. Then he began building benches, tables, shelves, and then he started donating them to local schools and community centers. Suddenly, Robert had purpose again. Not because someone told him to, not because he needed to, but because creating with his hands made him feel useful, proud, alive. Your purpose can be anything. Maybe it's mentoring someone younger. Maybe it's learning to paint, or volunteering at a shelter, or planting a garden that neighbors stop to admire. Maybe it's simply being the one in your friend group who always sends the birthday card. These little things matter more than you think. They're not small, they're soul work. And here's what happens when you live with purpose. Your energy changes. Your conversations deepen. You carry yourself differently. You're not just passing time, you're shaping it. You're leaving a mark. It's easy to believe that the most meaningful parts of life are behind you. But they're not. Not even close. The years ahead can be rich, vibrant, and deeply satisfying if you build them on the right foundation. You've already lived through so much. You've grown, endured, celebrated, and overcome. And now, you have the wisdom to choose how you want to live. Not just survive, but thrive. Every step you take towards stability, whether it's in your budget, your health, your mindset, your relationships, or your purpose, adds strength to your foundation. And what you build now, that's what will carry you through the years ahead, with peace, with joy, and with a sense of pride that no one can take away. Let's take a moment and just breathe that in. You've made it through so many chapters, some joyful, some challenging, and now, here you are. Still growing, still learning, still building a life with meaning. That, in itself, is something to be proud of. Everything we've talked about, your finances, your health, your resilience, your relationships, and your purpose, these are not luxuries. They are essentials. They are the pillars holding you steady in a world that's always shifting. And the beauty is, none of these pillars need to be perfect. They just need to be strong enough to support the life you want to live. You don't need anyone's permission to start. You don't have to wait for the right moment or worry if it's too late. Because every small step you take, every healthy meal, every phone call to a friend, every moment you choose gratitude over worry, those steps add up. They really do. What's more, your journey can be a light for someone else. Maybe it's your grandchild, watching how you keep your body strong with simple habits. Maybe it's a neighbor, inspired by how you still find ways to laugh and connect. Maybe it's someone at church, touched by the way you show up and give your time freely. We never really know the full impact of our choices, but they matter. You matter. And let's not forget, you're allowed to enjoy this stage of life. In fact, you should. Aging doesn't mean shrinking away from joy or giving up the things that make you feel alive. It means embracing what's true for you, right now. Slowing down doesn't have to mean giving up. It can mean savoring, being intentional, letting go of pressure and making space for peace. Some people think stability means boredom, but in reality, a stable life is what gives you the freedom to explore, to create, to love without fear. When you're not worried about money, or health, or loneliness, or losing your sense of self, you can show up fully. You can say yes to the things that light you up. Maybe that means finally learning to play the piano, just for fun. Maybe it means taking that weekend trip you've been putting off for years. Maybe it means having deep conversations with people who really see you. Or maybe it simply means sitting on your porch in the evening, feeling the breeze on your face, and knowing in your heart that you're doing just fine. No matter where you are in your journey, it's never too late to realign. To look at the parts of your life that feel unsteady and ask, what do I need here? What's one small thing I can do to make this feel more solid? That question alone can change everything. There's something incredibly powerful about being intentional at this stage of life. You've earned the right to live on your terms. You've earned the wisdom to know what truly matters. And you've earned the clarity to build a life that supports, not drains, you. So if you're feeling stuck or unsure where to begin, start small. Choose one area, just one. Maybe it's walking for 15 minutes in the morning. Maybe it's calling a friend once a week. Maybe it's setting aside a few dollars in a jar marked just for me. That's all it takes to begin. And once you begin, momentum builds. Remember, you're not alone in this. There are so many others, right now, asking the same questions, making the same shifts, and looking for the same peace. And when we share our stories, our tips, our little victories, we create something beautiful together, a community of strong, empowered, joyful people who are aging with intention and grace. So here's what I want you to do, right now. Take a moment and reflect. Which of these 5 pillars feels the strongest for you right now? And which one could use a little love? You don't need to fix it all today, but naming it, that's your starting point. And if this video spoke to you in any way, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below. Share your thoughts. Tell us how you're building your life after 60. You never know who your words might inspire. And while you're here, go ahead and like this video if it helped you, and subscribe to the channel, Strong Elderly Life, for more uplifting, practical content just like this. We're here to support you, to encourage you, and to walk with you through this incredible stage of life. Because yes, it is incredible. No matter what anyone says, you have so much more living to do. So many stories left to write. So many smiles to give and receive. And the good news? You don't need to do anything extreme to build a life that feels steady and joyful. You just need those 5 pillars and a little bit of courage to keep showing up for yourself. So here's to your strength. Here's to your freedom. Here's to your peace of mind. And most of all, here's to living your best life at any age. Take care of yourself. You deserve it. We'll see you again soon.